heavily marked because copy editors have a way that things should look, and assign your work to that, and then it's your job to determine which stuff you're going to fight for, and which you're like, oh, and most of you say, oh yeah, that comma goes there, please put a comma there, like that. But it has a certain way, and this is what I said, it has a certain way of making all your silly mistakes seem like serious character flaws, like, oh, how could I do that, and she was really great about, like, assuring me it was completely normal. Once I had gotten books printed, she said, I hope you're enjoying the post-printing glow, during which time most authors hate their book because now that it's been so closely edited, you can't read it, and which was 100% true. I couldn't read it for a while, you know what I mean? So yeah, no, she's been fabulous.
Are you surprised by how much Harry Potter books have evolved?
Yeah, I don't know that surprised about how they've evolved. I expected, since Harry was growing, I expected the tone of the books to always go from this simple 11-year-old charming smaller story to grow into a massive epic. And I'm not surprised but wildly pleased at how impressively she pulled it off. Because book 7 is just a masterwork, and it's wonderful.
What do you think is the most important thing you've learned from being a part of the Harry Potter fandom?
The most important thing I've learned about being a part of the Harry Potter fandom, it's what was in here. It's what was inherent in that piece, which is to follow your bliss. I mean, I never in my life thought that what I was doing with Harry Potter would eventually become my real track. I was supposed to be a journalist. I was going to. After that terrible job, I had a better, much better one at the Staten Island Advance in Staten Island, and I was shockingly, and I was a daily newspaper reporter, which it's a hard job to get, but it is a lot of grunt work. It's a lot of, you go to council meetings late at night, and sometimes you're a glorified stenographer, but it's always very rewarding because you go out and get to meet people. And I always thought that was the track. And then as this started to become more important, and the community became so much more a part of me, and as we went out and continued to take part in it, I realized that I could do it, that I could go there, I could work to make that my life, and I think there's a lesson in the Harry Potter books about that too, which is to be true to yourself. And yeah.
What was the first epiphany you had after first starting to read Harry Potter that you had personally in your life? Did you
First starting to read it?
Yeah, as some people after they first started to read the first and second books, they kind of oh my god, I could do this in my life, or I could do this. What did you have personally?
When I first started reading the Harry Potter books, I was attracted to them almost solely because they were such a fantastic mystery. I love mysteries. I've read every single Nancy Drew book growing up. It was, and it was so much fun to pick apart the clues. And once I got to 3, and I realized that it was this giant connected world, that's it. I was stuck. I was in there. But then when those little lessons that are very prevalent in most children's books are all over the first 3, 4, 5 books. But when you really get to 6 and 7, and you start getting to the larger themes about death and the beautiful workings of love that she incorporates into the fabric of the book, it teaches you with every page. So I don't know that I had one big epiphany moment with Harry Potter, but I think I am happy to apply it to my life as often as possible.
Quiet, Harry Potter.
Okay, when you say you like mystery novels, have you ever read any other magic, fantasy novels before Harry?
Sci-fi. I'm not usually a sci-fi reader, believe it or not. I think Harry Potter was a really big aberration. I usually read adult nonfiction. So Harry Potter, literally, and it says it in here. I read Harry Potter because I was going for my first semester at. My last semester at Georgetown, and my sister was with me. We were putting all our books, and I had this big pile of books, and some of them looked interesting, and some of them really didn't. And she just looked at this big pile and said, "You need something light to read," and she put the copy of that on the top, and that was the end. I mean, she's here. Where are you, Stephanie? Here she is. So I mean, I've read other fantasy. I'm not Lord of the Rings. I thought the movies were better. Sorry, and I'm no denying they're wonderful, but I enjoy the movies better. So yeah, and I think that also speaks to what that I was asked before about the universality of it. I mean, that I could not only love it, but love it, and not be a normal sci-fi fan. And the only way the books can sell as much as they have is that people who are not usually sci-fi fans can also love it as much. Your hand went up. Oh, okay, good.
I just thought, do you think this kind of phenomenon with fan sites and podcasts and kind of everything could be recreated for another series? Or do you think, like, public editing houses might want to create it ahead of time? Or could it only be done grassroots like this one?
It's such a curious question whether the phenomenon, the websites, the podcasts, the wizard, the fan rock, all that stuff can get recreated. I think there are people who try. It's gone to a certain extent with the Twilight series. I think if the Twilight series had more books coming out, it would, because it's the end at 4, so it's as if it kind of cooled off after Goblet of Fire. You know, I don't think we would have had the Wizard Rock scene we have now and whatnot. But there is also a strong element now of people realizing, because of what Harry Potter has done, of studios and companies realizing the power of fans and the power of grassroots movements and trying to recreate it. I know, for instance, to take the Twilight example again, the movie producers are much more forthcoming than Warner Bros. is even today about letting the actors interact with the fan sites and the activities they let them do. And there's no doubt that Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and Star Wars had a tremendous impact on the way that fans are allowed to play with copyright without any punitive action, except if they try to sell it. You know, that wasn't the case in 2000. In 2000 they started sending out cease and desist letters to Harry Potter fan sites, you know, so the way we've come. Yeah, but it's definitely affected things.
Have you ever been banished about something else? I know, I mean, not obviously to this extent, but some people have a history of just being like this about whatever they're into.
No, I mean, I'm definitely an obsessive personality. That's beyond, I mean, foregone conclusion to the max right there. But there was only one other thing I was really into in my last year of high school and my first year of college was Rent. The musical Rent. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I was a big fan. But it wasn't the same thing to be in the Rent fandom than it was now, because internet was kind of still new. It wasn't as easy. It wasn't as easy to get together online. Email was a much weirder beast than it is now. And the organization, and plus Rent isn't. I mean, Rent at the time you go see it in New York. You can't all read a book in all corners of the world. So it was a much smaller, and I didn't do much else than hang out with my friends and see, you know. This was the first one where it collided with the things that I like to do outside of the books, and so it allowed, yeah. But if I'm really a fan about something, I'm really a fan. I mean, I think I watched all of Battlestar Galactica in like 3 days or something. It's, you know, yeah. No. I'm sorry. Who besides? Ooh, who besides Harry? See, that's a very smart question, because everyone's Harry. But and that's what I usually say, because it's his heart, you know. Besides Harry, it would have to be Ron. I mean, how could it not be? I just love him so much. And the Hermione fans are mad at me. What's yours? Luna. Oh, well, I mean, see, there's the thing. It's so hard, because somebody says, oh, Luna, and I go, oh, but Luna. And then Neville. How would it Neville? Neville. You know what I love about Neville? You know what I love about Neville? And I said this after book 5, and it was a popular notion at the time, is that, and this is getting into canon, so if you haven't read Harry Potter, plug your ears. Or leave, she says. At the time of the end of book 5, Neville, all Neville knows about Sirius Black is that he's somebody to be feared. He's a vicious murderer. He could be just as responsible for people who are in the same position as his parents. The whole world feels him and everything. But he dies, and he sees Harry, and he scrambles over to Harry and says, I'm sorry,